Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. Welcome to all of our attendees tuning in from around the world. Today's broadcast of Invisible Women in Sport is an Institute for Sport and Social Justice production. I am your producer, Garnett Overby. All guests will be muted during this production, but I encourage you to use the chat feature to ask questions or leave a comment. We will reserve time near the end to answer a few questions. So now, without further ado, I would like to welcome our host, Taylor Middleton.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Season 2, Episode 7 of Invisible Women in Sport. I am your host, Taylor Middleton, and today I am joined by Alicia English, who works as the Assistant Athletic Director for Revenue Enhancement. How are you doing today?
This is the day the Lord has made, Taylor. Let us rejoice. It is such a good day. I like that intro song. You're going to have to sing that to me. I really like that one. So thank you so much for having me. I'm so excited to talk with you today.
All righty. So to get started, like I had mentioned previously, we're going to have our little game of rapid fire, which is about 30 seconds. And I will just ask you a series of questions just to get a little more comfortable and get a little bit more engaged for people in the Zoomcast. Please participate in the chat below and answer any questions that I ask. So I will get the clock started. Okay, ready?
Absolutely.
All right. Illinois or Alabama?
Illinois. That's my hometown, my home state, Midwest, all the way.
Football games or basketball games?
Oh gosh. I'm a basketball at heart, basketball baby all the time. I see a couple people in the chat said basketball. Let me tell you, I love me some March Madness. Love March Madness. Best time of year.
Okay, and then best piece of advice you've gotten this year?
Oh gosh, best piece of advice I've gotten this year. Try new recipes. We're in the middle of COVID, so cook more, eat out less. So try some new recipes. So I feel like I'm cooking it up in there.
And then what's one thing you want to do before the end of 2021?
One thing I want to do before the end of 2021, I just want to go see my family. I haven't seen them yet, girl. Especially in COVID and all these events, I haven't seen anybody yet.
Oh, wow. So then that was the end of it. So when was the last time you saw your family?
It's been a while. So we are actually one of the few athletic departments that have been having sports and athletics. We started with basketball season in November. Mm-hmm. And so it's really been a really long stretch. We've committed with our staff to, again, keep the bubble safe, keep our student athletes safe. And so once we started going into season, we just had to be really careful about our surroundings. And so a lot of us just chose not to be exposed and go to them. And so I have family next door in Alabama and I have family in Illinois, but it's been almost 6-7 months. And so it's a really, really long stretch to be this close and not see them. I love my student athletes, but it's nothing like being home, nothing like being around family. So I will be at the family reunion live and in person. Okay. Live. I plan to be at the family reunion with my mask on.
Yeah, no, I can definitely understand that. When my mom dropped me off to Florida in August, and then I hadn't seen her and my brother together until like 2 weekends ago. So I completely understand. It's
that's all I want to do is before the end of the year, because then we'll come right back in August and go head first into football and all of our sports again. So there's a little small window I get to go see them. So I'm excited.
So you spoke about how you have family in Alabama and Illinois. Can you talk about kind of like your connection to Alabama and then you ending up there for college?
Yeah. So I went to the best HBCU in the land. I went to Alabama A&M University. I'm a proud graduate of my alma mater. I played volleyball down there. But both of my parents are from the state of Alabama. So my dad went to A&M. My mom went to the rival school, Alabama State. So it's a little rivalry in the house. But I chose to go to A&M and follow my dad. And then when they just got married and had kids, they made their life in Illinois. And so I grew up and I'm from Illinois. I'm proud of the Midwest. I love being from there. But I just remember growing up, going down south all the time, going to Classic games, going to the rivalry games. And so I chose to go to Alabama for school for a reason, just to get a different experience, to be closer to family. A lot of my cousins and relatives are in the South. And so I just wanted something different. And so it's just funny because now I'm back in the South. I've been all over, but being back here closer to family, that's why I said I'll be right there at the family reunions. It's amazing to be with them.
So then can you talk a little bit about your experience being a collegiate athlete at an HBCU?
Yeah, I loved my experience. I will tell you, we were a big family. My coach was like my auntie. The football coach knew all of us by name. He was like my uncle. It was just a really great atmosphere to be a part of and super supportive. I will tell you that was honestly the first time in my life, Taylor, that I had been around and in a environment that people looked like me. They talked like me. They were just as smart as I was, intelligent, competitive. So I know my in high school, I was one of the only ones that played volleyball at my high school. And then when I got to A&M, I was just wowed about how competitive, how athletic, how smart everybody was. And that experience, again, we were pushing each other just to be great. We were pushing each other to graduate, just do better. And it was such a great opportunity. And I love it. That's why I'm so proud to be an HBCU grad.
Now, were there any things that you think that you didn't have to go through because you went to an HBCU compared to like a African American student athlete that would go to a PWI?
Yeah, I will tell you a lot of the things that are probably going on now that what everyone is kind of just talking about, a lot of social injustice and feeling isolated on campuses, right? So, everywhere you turn left and right, there are people that had similar stories and similar backgrounds to you. So you didn't feel like you were on your own. So I didn't experience that. I will tell you the one aspect of going to HBCU is we knew we had to work harder than anybody else. We had to be competitive. We knew about the Power Fives and the brands, and we didn't have all of that. We didn't have the resources and the facilities as other schools. And so we played with a little chip on our shoulder. But the best thing about that is anytime we were in the room and anytime when I was applying for jobs, we made sure that they knew that our HBCU education and our experience is definitely worth something. We could step in the room with anybody. So I know there's a lot of athletes and a lot of people these days that are just saying, I feel isolated. I can't find, kind of my niche or my group there. And so we didn't really have that at A&M, but we had such a family atmosphere that everybody was rooting and pushing everybody to be great.
Gotcha. So then having all that support as an athlete and being around people who did look like you on like a daily basis, how was it transitioning out of being an athlete and into like your master's program?
Yeah, so I actually got my master's at a PWI. I got it at Western Illinois. So I chose to have the two different experiences on purpose. But transitioning out, I will tell you that the biggest thing, especially your senior year, that a lot of our teachers, our professors, and our coaches really work for, they empowered us to say, hey, we need you to go out there and we need you to be confident. We need you to be sure of who you are. You are prepared, right, for the world. It doesn't matter the field that you step into and who you are, you deserve to have a spot anywhere. And again, I didn't have the Duke background or the North Carolina background when I got into sports, right? That transition period, I just knew I wanted to be in sports, but I came from HBCU. There weren't minorities. There weren't a lot of females in what I wanted to do. So that transition from leaving an HBCU, coming out into the world, and then being in the athletic world, where I definitely was one of not many, was so hard. But I knew the confidence that I had, and they were like, hey, y'all got to go out here and you got to really represent for our alma mater. Like, this isn't just about you, this is about the legacy, and what we really represent. And so that really prepared me for life after playing at A&M.
So then what was one thing that you learned being in your master's program that you use today?
The biggest thing that I learned, girl, that was a little years ago. We ain't gonna say how many. All right, let's be clear, Taylor. All right, I'm still young, but that was years ago. But in my master's program, I will tell you, I learned the art of being knowledgeable and being thoughtful when I speak. A
Mhm.
lot of people, when you go into your master's program, there isn't, a lot of classes where it's a lot of tests and a lot of homework, right? It is a lot of research and it is a lot of factual based presentation. And so I really had to learn the art, because here's the thing: in my master's class, it was only me and one other young lady that were minorities and that were females. There weren't
Mhm.
many of us. And so we knew immediately off the bat that if we were going to speak and present, we had to be knowledgeable, and we had to have something that was worth saying. We couldn't just speak up and be
Mhm.
opinionated and be like, okay, I'm getting ready to talk. We couldn't do that in our master's program. And that was one thing that's really carried me throughout my career, is if you are the only one in the room, a lot of times people are looking for you, but your voice is going to have so much power. You have to be knowledgeable when you speak, and you
Mhm.
have to be making sure that you make an impact with whatever that you say or do.
Yeah, that kind of reminds me of some stuff that like my mom, she would tell me when I was in school, because I kind of mentioned to you before, but I was in predominantly like white schools and areas growing up. And it was always like, you got to be 2 times better. You got to work 2 times harder. Like you have to do this to put yourself in these positions, to be in those opportunities. So I completely agree with what you're saying, like just being knowledgeable about what you're saying and not just always coming out the gate like with just pointless things, like they don't have anything to back them, because then it kind of like lowers your credibility when you
It
talk, and
does.
people don't
It
really like
does.
take you serious as much.
And I mean, it's so hard, because I mean, back when I was in school, we didn't necessarily have social media and the platform that everybody
Mhm.
has now. We didn't really think and talk about brands. It was really just about, what have you learned? What is your experience? What are your thoughts? And
Mhm.
again, your thoughts need to be on factual based and not opinions and feelings. I think a lot of times, being a woman in sport, again, there's not that many of us, but as you see how much power we can get when it comes to social media, when you put a tweet out there, you put a video
Mhm.
out there, how much power that can really be. And you need to make sure you be knowledgeable and thoughtful about the subject,
Mhm.
so people can think you're credible and definitely trust what you're saying.
Yes. And even then, like you've been mentioning how there's not a lot of us in those spaces as women and minorities in sport. So how important is it to you to keep recruiting people to get into those spaces for that representation?
Yes, ma'am. Look, girl, let me tell you. Look, you see, I was early. I was trying to recruit your team. I love Garnett, but listen, I'm always looking for good people to come a part of my team, and I'm always
Mhm.
trying to be the best recruiter out there. But really, I look for students that really want to work and learn, because I will tell you, I didn't have the blueprint. I didn't have the 101. I was looking for Cliff Notes. Okay, Taylor, let me be clear. I was looking for the Cliff Notes, and then all of a sudden one day, they were like, guess what? You are going to write the story. You are going to be the blueprint for others to come
Mhm.
behind you. Being in external, being in revenue, being in fundraising, being in ticket sales. This is very, very rare for a woman of color, a woman as young as I am, to be
Mhm.
over these departments. And so I understand all that. So for me, it's so important to, one, be the example, but two, recruit others behind me to say, hey, this is possible. You can do this. It's not as hard as it may seem. It is a lot of work, but there is a need on the external side. I love some of my colleagues that's on the call that deal with the internal and the student athlete development and compliance, and God bless them, because that is their heart and their gifts.
Uh-oh.
To the external side. So,
Gotcha. So how was it for you knowing that you had to take on that responsibility, being put in that position?
um, so I will tell you, I ran from it, like everybody does. You
Mhm.
get this assignment, you're like, okay, you're going to be in charge of this. You're going to be overseeing this, and I'm like, who? What, me? Are you sure? I always tell people, have you met me? Do you know who I am? But about a couple years ago, I finally accepted my assignment. That's what I was telling you before. Like, if someone calls on you and sees potential in you, accept the assignment, right? Because a pastor once told me, he said, you're going to be the first of your kind. And I didn't understand it then, but me being the first of my kind, I understand it now, of being a female, being a minority, being a woman of faith, being a woman from an HBCU, being from the Midwest, and now living in the South. Like, again, I'm 9-10 hours away from my family. You know how rare that is, to do all that. And so there was a lot of firsts, and I had to embrace the assignment. And I said, all right, guess it's gonna be me, guys. this is who it is. So let's do it, So
Well, even with that, you're also a resource liaison for multiple departments at your school with women leaders and women in college sports. So how is that for you, and what is your goal in doing that service?
oh my God, I'm a resource. Let me write that down, Taylor. I received that. Okay, I am a resource. Let me put that down because I think so many times I don't think of myself as a resource or someone. I will tell you, I got involved with women leaders, and I got involved with Leadership Institute Development, NCAA. I got involved with them because, let me be truthful, I had no idea what I was doing. There weren't many people above me. There was one or two, Jennifer Lynn Thomas, Jennifer Lynn Williams at Alabama State. I still want to call her former maiden name, but she was one that was in fundraising and external that took me under her wing. Markeisha, who we know from Pitt, she's in marketing. But there wasn't a lot of people that were doing it. And so I didn't have the example, right? And I wasn't sure. And so I got involved with women leaders so I can find my circle and find people, again, that could really speak to me and really help build me up. I'm a lifelong learner, but I'm also courage enough to know what I don't know, I'm going to find out, and I'm going to research. So I got in these spaces and circles with people that could help me grow, that could help me smooth out some of these rough edges, because sometimes, y'all, it is rough. Okay. It can be rough. But I just got in these spaces, and it was a plan of just really being exposed and learning more and growing more.
Gotcha. So then I even saw in your bio, you had went from a small Christian college to then going to Tennessee and LSU. So how was that experience switching from such a small campus to kind of those bigger Power 5 SEC schools for you?
Yeah. So actually early on in my career, I actually started at the Power 5, and then I got to a smaller Christian school. So my I've been in athletics for 12 years, Taylor. And my first 7 years, I was at Oregon State. I was in the Pac-12. I was at LSU in the SEC. Then I went to Tennessee, and I was in the SEC there. So my first 7 years of foundation, girl, let me tell you, okay? If ever in your life decide to sign up, that was the best training ground. That was the best foundation, because we did everything. We did everything and anywhere. And I'm wearing my shirt, the Be the Game Changer, because that's really what I learned at the SEC. I just wanted to be a game changer. I wanted to learn the business. I wanted to learn how to do things at a really high level. And then, of course, I'm an HBCU. I'm a small school person. So my heart and desire was to eventually go to a smaller school to see if I could change the game for them and be an impact, really have my footprint there. So learning it in the Pac-12 and the SEC, and being at the College World Series with the softball team, going to the Sweet 16 with women's basketball, being at college bowl games was amazing. And then I got called upon to help build a department up. And so that was, again, my assignment. Who knows, I might go back one day to a Power 5, but I knew then I needed that ground, that foundation, and those basic principles to learn how to do things and do them the right way.
So I even know, when I was at Pitt, I didn't know where our ticket sales people were. They're kind of hidden off to the side. So being at those big schools, did you face any obstacles in the roles that you were in, and kind of not always being seen all the time?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. Yeah. That makes me understand that the ticket office and ticket sales is definitely an area. We are just always behind the scenes, right? We're counting the money, or we're selling tickets to the games. And so we always don't get the credit that what is due. But that was, I will be honest with you, there was nothing wrong with me being behind the scenes and being invisible at that time. I wanted to be behind the scenes. I wanted to learn. I wanted to learn how to build it from the ground up. It gives me a better knowledge now of when I'm working here at Kennesaw State. We just added football 5 years ago.
Wow.
And now I can figure out how to get our ticket office out there, how to get the brand out there, how to grow our department to love tickets and love our season ticket holders in that aspect of it. And so really trying to work, because a lot of times we're always doing data, right? We're always building behind, we're always counting money, and everybody's like, you got to come out from behind the screen. And that was the best advice someone gave me. That's why I got into fundraising, and transition from ticket sales to fundraising, so I could meet our donors and I could meet our season ticket holders so much more.
So how was that experience as a woman of color meeting donors? Because I feel like they typically are older white males. So how was that for you?
Well, how much time you got, Taylor? All right. Look, is this a 30-minute show, 45, girl? Because I got stories for days. Okay, let me think about the right one to tell. So I'm a storyteller, but I will tell you, probably the most vivid story was during my time at one of my previous institutions. So I was overseeing our ticket office, and we were at a really heavy football game, and a season ticket holder, or I should say maybe a purchaser, maybe a customer, walked up and they were having some trouble with one of my student workers. So I walked up to the window to help them out and gave them the answer they did not want to hear. And then they were like, well, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to the manager. And I said, well, I am in charge. And they said, well, no, I don't want to talk to you. I want to talk to your boss. And I said, I am the boss. I'm in charge. I had to reiterate that. And my colleagues, one of my bosses, heard behind me kind of what was going on. And he came out and he actually said, sir, I don't know what's going on, but she's in charge. She is in charge and she can help you. And so whatever she says, I will stand by. And so having that support and having that background, I think a lot of times, because I am a woman and because I look so young, I think they just didn't think I carried any weight. How could she be in charge? How could someone that's a minority oversee such $1 million business? And so those are a lot of the obstacles. But again, that's why I go back to, when you speak, you have to be knowledgeable. Okay, you have to be able to have some clout to you, because you can't always just speak, because not everyone thinks you're going to be credible. Gotcha.
So then, even with that, what is it kind of like for you at Kennesaw State now, being that you just said they just started football 5 years ago? So what's it kind of like day to day at Kennesaw State?
Yeah, so about 5-6 years ago, so this has been Kennesaw State is actually very much growing. It started as a commuter school, the junior college school, and now we're the second largest in the state of Georgia, right behind UGA. So anybody from UGA, just know we coming for you. Okay, let's be clear. So it's always us, Georgia Tech and UGA. But the biggest thing that learning from day to day is really getting the sales, the operations of things going. I know right now it's baseball and softball season, but we're in football season ticket mode. Football season will kick off in September. And so we're just talking with a lot of our donors and season ticket holders, welcoming them back. No, we did not have a season in last fall. We had it this spring, but we were very limited in attendance. And so me and my staff are really working hard to reach out, just touch people, engage with them and welcome them back. And so it's amazing that a lot of people are just excited to give back in a safe environment, watch some live football, and then also have the opportunity just to support Kennesaw State Owls. We are in the ASUN conference, and so it's really every day. I was just with our women's golf team the other day this week, and we won a championship. And so our student athletes mean the most to me, but they're excited to be just competing and getting out here every single day. So my day-to-day is a lot with the revenue side, but then I also oversee a couple of our sports here. Like I was telling you, women's golf, who just won, softball and volleyball.
So then, from all your experiences from Oregon to Tennessee to LSU, what are some things that you have like been through that have kind of stuck with you, whether that's things that people have said or just kind of like different actions that you may take now?
The first one, so I will tell you one thing I do. I call it touch base Thursday. So I still do it every morning, maybe for about an hour. I either write notes or I'll send a text message, which is very common now, or I'll make some calls to some people. Again, I see some familiar faces on the call of people in my circle
Mhm.
that have definitely supported me, that have been there for me. And so I just want to touch base with them. You never want to lose touch with your roots. And so that's why I said I do touch base Thursdays. I started that when I was at Tennessee, and it's been awesome just to touch base with people because in athletics, you can get so tunnel vision of what you're doing and,
Yeah.
all the events going on, Taylor, that you forget, let me check on some other people. Does someone need
Mhm.
encouragement today? So that's one. Um, the second thing I would say that's definitely stuck with me, I heard this under just some leadership from one of my mentors that she was just telling me, truth before it's time creates resentment and not revelation. Um, so if you're sitting at the table and you're in meetings, and a lot of different times, again, we're in different spaces and a lot of different meetings. She taught me about the wait principle, which is why
Mhm.
am I talking? Wait. When you're in meetings, you need to wait because sometimes truth before it's time, it will create resentment and not revelation. And so many times you want to be like, oh, I got something for you. I'm getting ready to tell you like it is, or I'm getting ready to tell
Mhm.
you this and that. But you need to understand the room and understand when is the right time to give people some truth.
Mhm.
And when's the right time maybe to hold that and do it at another time. So, so yeah.
Gotcha. Well, we appreciate you so much. And I'm getting ready to ask my very last question. So, for anyone in the audience who has questions, please drop them in the chat for Alicia. She's been wonderful today, and I'm sure she's looking forward to everyone's questions.
Yes,
So, with that
please.
being said, being that you are a woman of color and that this Zoomcast is primarily like for women and men as well, but for someone like me who is younger, I'm coming out of grad school by December. We have a few people in my cohort who are as well. What advice would you give to women kind of like our age moving out of the spectrum and trying to get their foot in the door to athletics?
Um, yeah, the first thing I will tell you in athletics, if you're wanting to get in the space, Taylor, right? You're coming out. Welcome to the world. Okay, it's awesome. It's fun. The first thing I will tell you is accept the assignment, whatever it is um, that someone has called on you to do. Right, because a lot of times I think we discredit ourselves, like, no, I'm not going to be able to do that job, or I'm not ready for this and that. And you want me to host what? To do where, when, you want me to host a are you sure? Again, but accept the assignment. Okay. Understand if there's an assignment attached to it and there's purpose attached to it. I wouldn't look at things because again, early on in my career, I looked at things as it was a job and not an assignment. There's a
Mhm.
reason why a lot of us, there is only one or two of us in these departments. There's a reason why maybe I'm the only one in external, because this is my assignment, like you talked about, to go back and get others, one, or two, to be the blueprint so other people can feel led to be out there.
Mhm.
Um, so that's one thing I will tell you for coming into the world of athletics, accept the assignment. Two, I would also tell you, be a light. Let me tell you, athletics is a grind and it is hard. And it is, like I said, I've gone 6, 7 months without seeing anybody in my family. It is rough sometimes. But you need to be a light every single day. And I always do love, serve, care. You need to love on people. You need to be ready to serve in your assignment, serve in whatever you're asked to do, and just care about people. Um, I hate saying this, but we don't need any more people whining. We need people winning. No more whining and complaining about what it is that you're not doing. And if you have to, again, be a game changer. Come into athletic departments. And be knowledgeable about what it is that you want to do and how you can make impact. Because let me be clear, it is not about you. The sooner you will accept it, that it's not about you, the more
Mhm.
that you'll be ready to walk in your assignment, be like, okay, I'm ready to make an impact. I'm ready to give to athletic departments.
Gotcha. Well, thank you so much. And I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to Garnett for our Q&A. And we really appreciate you being here today. So thank
Thank you, Taylor. It's been a
you.
pleasure. Reverend Deacon Dr. Garnett.
I'm here. You hear me? You got
Yes,
me?
Reverend Deacon.
All right. Alicia, that is phenomenal. You said a few times that you are young, but you are very wise in your craft and in your field. So I wish we had time to talk to you all day.
Oh, thank you.
But thank you so much. So we do have a few questions. Our first
Okay.
question comes from our very own Matt Edelson. And Matt is saying, can you talk a bit about how you reach out to the community in different ways to enhance revenue?
Yeah, so I will tell you my two biggest initiatives of reaching out to the community is really with our groups and our teams. We always look out to try to get women's basketball teams or volleyball teams to come and interact with our players or to come interact with our coaching staffs and again, see the model for them. And so just give them an opportunity to come see a Division I program. So everywhere I've gone, that's really been one of my biggest initiatives is to get groups to be engaged and involved in the program. We have some really great student athletes that are always willing to give an hour of their time to meet and greet, do autographs pre-COVID. And so it's just awesome to do that in the community and reach out to them. The second one that I will tell you that is part of the revenue generation. We do some things with season ticket holders where we just do season ticket holder appreciation. Anybody that gives or supports student athletes, I know I don't want to make it transactional, but again, we just do some appreciation and follow up with them to make sure that they come back and understand how much their purchase has made an impact in our department.
That's awesome. I remember being one of those little kids getting autographs from the colleges when I went to those games. And so it makes an impact.
It does. You would be surprised how it just makes their day. And again, just teaching these kids again their platform and the moment that it means to them of being there.
Absolutely. Our next question comes from one of my graduate assistants, Larissa Campalo. And Alyssa says, what was the biggest challenge in your life and what did you take away from it?
Yeah, Larissa, you're gonna have you owe me some more chips and salsa, first of all, for this question. But let's see. I would say probably the biggest challenge, and again, this is not anybody's journey in ministry. It was probably having to move. I moved about 5, 6 times. So I've lived in the state of Oregon, Louisiana, Tennessee, Texas, and now Georgia. So is that 5? So I've lived in about 5 different states, and I've only been 12 years in my career, and that is a challenge. Starting over, that is a challenge. Finding new friends and places, that is a challenge. Establishing yourself. The farthest I was away from my family was in Oregon, so I didn't get the chance to see them all the time. I'm very family oriented. But I will tell you the biggest things that it has taught me of just moving around and adapting. Let me tell you, pros pivot. I can pack now in 3 days and be ready to go anywhere. At the same token, it was also being able to be flexible and adjustable. I don't get comfortable. I don't get settled. I always want and strive for more. And so again, I don't necessarily advocate for people moving all the time, Garnett, but I just, for me, I'm very much so attached to the assignment and my impact and not so much of, well, I have to live in this city or I have to have this many people and friends around me. Listen, you don't need anything but the Spirit of the Lord. And as long as you are moving and working in your purpose, then you will be just fine.
I'll say amen to that, but I know a
All
little bit
right,
about,
my amen corner. I appreciate it.
know a little bit about moving. I've moved probably about 7 or 8 times, so I get it.
It is a ministry. I'm trying to tell y'all at the end of movie, you should be like, you know what, just get rid of it all and I will start over. That's the point you get to. So yes, it is definitely not everybody's calling.
That's true. That's true. We have one last question. This comes from another one of my graduate assistants, Olivia Wiggins. And Olivia is asking, what is the best way you have found to overcome rejection or failure?
That's a good question, Olivia. rejection and failure. So quick story. Again, I'm a storyteller. When I came out of graduate school, I came out at a time when the recession in the economy was really down. It was really, really bad in 2008. And so I applied to probably about 20, 25 jobs. And I got one call, and that was from Oregon State for an interview, and then one call back to actually come take the job. And so you want to talk about rejection and failure. And I know a lot of your graduate assistants and everyone that wants to get in athletics, people that are applying for jobs, and it is so much, I don't hear anything back, or they didn't want me, or this and that. But just take heart. One thing I have done is just done affirmations. I am an overcomer. For me to have gone through a lot of different situations and applied for many jobs and got turned down just because of who I am. The second thing is there's a song out there, one of my favorites is Optimistic by Sounds of Blackness. Let me tell you, that is my jam, Garnett, and I will encourage anybody out there to download that, be optimistic, because you can win, you can keep your head to the sky. I play it almost every morning, just to be optimistic and know trouble's not gonna last always. And so for me, it's affirmations. For me, it's my jam. So my music a lot of different times. But the other thing is just to stay encouraged. You have to keep going, and your breakthrough is just this close. You're this close, promise you.
Well, thank you so much. And I believe it's Cassie or Casey. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong, but she said, I'm so grateful to have Alicia in my life to model what it means to live out a calling and purpose. She is definitely a light. And she said, thank you for hosting this, for giving people a chance to hear from you today. So there are definitely those people out there who feel that you've been a light to them. So we really appreciate you being here with us today as well.
Thank you. Yep, Casey is another one. It's been in my circle for a long time. I appreciate her. So thank y'all for having me. Like I said, if there's anybody that we're gonna open the doors of the church now, right, Garnett? All right, we're gonna pass that seed offering. Should we pass the offering bucket? No? Okay. I'm a deacon's kid, y'all. I'm a deacon's kid at heart. So I'm born and raised, and I just have to make sure the seed offering, and then we offer open the doors of the church.
Well, thank you everybody for listening today. And thank you again, Alicia, for being here with us. We appreciate you so much. And we are now going to close out. So thank you everybody who tuned in today. Please tune in on May 6th at 2 p.m. for episode 8, where I will be speaking with Dr. Nikki Frank, the head coach of women's fencing at Temple University. Please follow us on all our social media platforms at Institute SSJ as well. Your support is very much needed for Invisible Women in Sport. We are a nonprofit organization with other programs that impact various social justice issues. Please use the QR code to support us with a financial gift as we continue to change lives through the power of sport. Also, thank you again to Alicia, our guest, for being here with us today, our producer, Garnett L. Overby III, our senior advising consultant, Matt Edelson, our graduate assistants, Larissa Campello and Olivia Wiggins, and our blog writer, Kennedy Collins. Again, special thank you to all the organizations and people who have been supporting Invisible Women in Sport. Also, if you miss any episodes, you can follow us at Institute SSJ. We're also on Spotify, Google Podcasts, and Apple Podcasts, as well as YouTube. Again, if you ever miss an episode, so please stay up to date with us. Also, viewers, we need your feedback to make Invisible Women in Sport the best it can be. Following today's episode, you will receive a short survey. Please complete and submit it to us. Also, we are still getting a lot of inquiries about if we have any connections to internships. So for any of our supporters or members who have internships available or information about them, please send your information to our producer, Garnett Overby at goverby@ucf.edu. And so we can send it out to the people reaching out to us. Again, tune in on May 6th, where I will be speaking with Dr. Nikki Frank. And I am your host for Invisible Women in Sport Zoomcast, and see us now. Thank you, everybody. See you at the next one.